5 minutes, and you watch them do every little bit of it because we have time.
Then there's the whole technology angle to the show is interesting because there's multiple realities or multiple dreams or whatever you want to call them. I feel like in David Lynch's minds, it's all kind of the same thing as far as different worlds, different universes.
Yeah, it's all electricity.
Yeah, you travel through electricity, but a dream, an alternate reality, it's all kind of the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the key ways of understanding that the world of Twin Peaks, not the town, but the world that most of the show takes place in is different than like our world is kind of shown with these technology things. Like, what you're talking about with Evil Cooper and his whole convoluted phone suitcase thing.
But that seems super important that it's landline telephonic.
Yeah, but then other stuff in the world too, like he has a tracking device, and it's just like 3 random shapes, and it looks so cheap. And then like Jane Addams, who we haven't mentioned, who plays the coroner in South Dakota, but like her whole computer system for.
It looks like Windows 95.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So it looks like our world, but there's these little things that make the technology just feel like completely different.
I do feel like that sort of like it's supposed to point you at certain things, like, and again, it's like you turn the corner in the police office in Twin Peaks, and there's the modern stuff. Mm-hmm. It's been isolated.
Yeah.
It's put away. The sheriff's desk. Wood, normal, and then the screen.
He's got his little wood lever.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, so you found a way to integrate it into your, design.
Yeah.
But it's still, with the wooden lever, that still feels like old technology.
Mm-hmm. Just don't try and explain cell phones to Lucy. She doesn't get it.
No, she doesn't. Until she does.
Until she does.
She finally, eventually does, which is one of the brilliant things about Lucy. God, and that's one of the things about Lucy that I like carried through from the first 2 seasons to this one, is that you can never underestimate her. Because you got to remember, she's the one in season 2 that just like was just discreetly typing up the conversation that was happening in front of her, and nobody, she wasn't supposed to know that, but she wasn't supposed to be listening, and nobody thinks of her because she's just the receptionist.
Yeah.
And when Chad gets the mail, fucking Chad, he's just like, oh, Lucy's not going to notice that.
Yeah.
Well, she does, and she's the key that opens the whole fucking thing up. If she hadn't noticed that, he could have gotten away with it. Wouldn't have had to leave town, and wouldn't eventually meet up with Evil Coop, and all that sort of thing. So she's very strongly key to the whole thing.
Sure.
And I like that. She's you have to remember. You have to keep that in your mind. She's not just a ditzy, confused person that doesn't understand how someone can be on the phone and has no idea which sheriff you want to see.
Sheriff Truman isn't here?
Well, do you know which one? It could make a difference.
No, ma'am.
One is sick and the other one is fishing. It could make a difference.
See, another actor that again could have been if it, is somebody that's worked with David Lynch a lot, but also could have been like another famous person. Was Naomi Watts, and she shows up as Janie E., Dougie's long-suffering wife. Man, she's been through some bullshit. You just can tell with her.
Okay, Dougie, you're acting weird as shit.
Whoever ends up marrying Dougie Jones in the first place, you gotta wonder about, maybe. From the little glimpses that were given of the Dougie before he shows up.
That is something I wish we got a little bit more of.
I would be interested.
I want to see maybe the new show that David Lynch is working on. Maybe it'll be the Dougie Jones prequel. How about that?
I'll watch that.
But I think even in the context of this series, I think it would have been beneficial to see a little bit more of Dougie
just a little bit
before Cooper replaces him.
You get a lot of that through Janie.
That's true. Just her general performance and the way she reacts to him. You can tell she's fed up with his shit.
It's really interesting to think about. He shows up basically catatonic, and she's not really that worried.
You were supposed to call them and set up a time to pay them off, and look, this shows up. Do you have an explanation for this?
Jade.
Jade. So that's her name, is it?
Jade give 2 rides.
There were critics at the time that were kind of talking about how the women characters were sort of like, portrayed as just shrieking evil, all screaming, and all men are all the problem.
Yeah.
And I really don't think that holds true. And it could certainly go that way if the writing and performances weren't as good. But Janie's a perfect example of that. Like she's yelling at Dougie all the time because he will not get his shit together. Like, but he won't get his shit together.
Yeah.
And clearly she's used to this. Clearly this is not something that's just brand new. But
she's completely justified in how angry she is at Dougie all the time.
And she's so in control, so smart. And I think the key scene with her for me is when she goes to pay off the gambling debt.
What kind of world are we living in where people can behave like this, treat other people this way without any compassion or feeling for their suffering? Now, I suggest you take a good long look at yourselves because I never want to see either of you again.
And then the gangster's like, well, you're going to pay this much more. And it's just like, no, I'm not. Well, basically just no.
Yeah.
And she shuts it down so perfectly, and they just like can't do anything about it because
we've never had anybody tell us off like
no,
this.
and she's so in charge.
Yeah.
And that's her character all the way through. Like, she's trying to keep this family together and raise her son properly, and she's a very strong character as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah, she's one of the highlights of the season.
Yeah, and Lucy as well. You're supposed to dismiss Lucy as a ditz that doesn't understand things, but she is the key to the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Even the Sheriff Truman's wife.
Yeah.
The first few times we see her, she's kind of that like nagging wife character from like a sitcom or something.
Right.
I've been just waiting at the house in case Dad needed a ride somewhere. You're impossible!
But then, a few episodes later, we get a scene where we explain that their son committed suicide. And that, fucked her up. And it's like, oh, okay, this is why she's so micromanaging things like this. Because, she's had this gigantic loss and it's messed with her.
Exactly.
So it's like, even things like that, where it's like, you have your typical sitcom nagging wife character, but you get a little more backstory and you find out why they're like that.
Yeah.
You couldn't take being a soldier.
Also, Tammy, FBI agent Tammy.
She's there.
She's there. I get the kind of feeling more on rewatches too. Like, you're supposed to be really focusing on how Gordon's not quite right. Gordon likes the young ladies a little too much.
That was funny. I'm rewatching it. I forgot about this from the first time, but it might be the last episode or the second to last, where he makes like this really crude comment.
I said you've gone soft in your old age. Not where it counts, buddy.
I was like, shockingly crass for David Lynch.
Take it easy.
I mean, I know it's not David Lynch, it's Gordon Cole,
Right.
but it was just caught me off guard.
Yeah, but I think that's more something I think about on more rewatches too. Like, there's that French woman in the room
Très chic.
that he makes poor Albert just sit there forever.
He takes her time getting out of there.
Oh, Jesus
Everyone
Christ.
takes their time with everything in this show.
No, that's true. He does not want to take his time. He's still Albert.
Yeah. I love that so much of the season is the two of them.
Yes.
And Tammy's there too, but mainly those two. Like, I would watch a whole show of them.
Yeah,
They're so funny together.
They are. They're just, like a comedy team, like a good comedy team, those two.
She's here visiting a friend of her mother whose daughter has gone missing. The mother owns a turnip farm. I told her to tell the mother that her daughter will turn up eventually. She didn't get it either.
But Tammy's main function, I mean, because like we were talking about, like so much of the show is about characters getting old. And she's kind of like the new recruit. She's younger. She's kind of learning the ropes. She's works as like a way to get exposition across. Yeah. Because Albert and Gordon Cole, they've been through this all together. They know all this shit.
They've got too much shorthand.
You gotta have somebody to explain what the fuck is happening for our sake. So Tammy kind of works for that.
And honestly, I think Christabel, in her key scene, like where she kind of like she knows, and when you can tell is when Gordon's trying to comfort Diane outside the police station, and she just can't decide how to stand.
Yeah.
Like nothing's comfortable, and that almost feels like her telling us. She's just like, I know what I am. What I am here. Maybe that's putting too much into it, but it just kind of felt that way to me.
That's true. We should talk about Richard too. We should mention him.
We should talk about Richard.
Because man,
he's great.
In David Lynch's career of writing scumbag characters, this is one of the scummiest. There's a lot of, he reminds me a lot of Dennis Hopper in Blue Velvet, just in terms of just like being a complete scumbag.
You recoil from him the second he's on screen, and he's a weird looking dude.
Yeah.
Great looking, but like he's got
perfect for the part.
He's got that kind of like.
What's that angular like? It just makes him look like evil.
Cocksucking bitch! And I'll cornhole that piece of shit! Now give me the fucking money!
And that scene where he storms into his grandmother's house and Johnny's there, like
still taking care of Johnny.
Still taking care of Johnny, but he's like tied up to a chair because he was running like crazy earlier. And he has to calm him down. So he's got this weird bear that I'm sure David Lynch made himself sitting right in front of him.
Hello, Johnny. How are you today? How are you today?
That scene is that's like classic David Lynch stuff.
Oh yeah.
That perfect balance of this is weird and funny, but also terrifying.
Completely terrifying because he's, Richard is so menacing.
He's so intimidating.
Yeah.
He beats up his grandma.
Ugh.
That's where we're at in this world.
Yeah. Yeah, and poor Ben, because Ben's changed. Ben is he's basically not evil anymore. He just wants to run the lodge and just is exasperated by all the other people.
That's true, yeah.
There'd be a certain point where you'd think like, well, that character could have collaborated with him. It would have been like a new generation of horror and evil. It's like, no, he's taken it all. He's that much of a bad guy.
Yeah.
He's cleared it all out. Which is, oh man, and just the idea of who he is. That Evil Coop raped Audrey in the hospital while she was in a coma, and that's why that fucker exists.
Yeah.
Just, ugh.
It's like, that's an overall theme of the season too, is this kind of birth of evil.
Yeah, yes.
With him specifically, but then, at a much larger scale, I don't even know how we're going to start talking about this shit.
I don't know, man.
Is that where we're at?
Are we there? No, let's not go there yet.
Okay.
We might have to take a break before we get into that one. Let's go. I've got a bottle of bourbon there.
Oh, that's where we're at.
If you want it.
Why you have to make something so simple so fucking difficult? Cunt.
And talking about performances, we did just kind of skip over Kyle fucking MacLachlan.
Yes, if you get nothing else out of this season, what a phenomenal performances, not just performance.
Basically four.
Yeah.
Four performances, which is amazing, and they're all completely different, but they're all the same.
Yeah.
It's an actor's highest achievement you could even think of doing something like that. He's so good.
Yeah, and that feels like you could only get to that place if you have the history that David Lynch and him have working together for so many years. And same with Laura Dern, which we can talk about her too. But yeah, Kyle MacLachlan is just, this is. Some people hate Dougie, but for me, this is the Dougie Jones show.
It is.
I think that's the highlight of the season.
Oh my god!
It really wins you over, or won me over in a way that I wasn't expecting.
It was it's so funny and fun and sweet, which you don't know that's going to happen from the beginning of his story.
Yeah.
He's cheating on his wife in some empty house somewhere. Whoever this Dougie guy is. But it turns out to be just a real central thing in the whole series. Not just that you obviously every episode you're waiting for the Coop to come back to full. You get that frustration of like I love like the way that Mike back in the Black Lodge is still just like don't die.
Well, there's a good kind of self-referential moment with Mike when Cooper finally comes out of his comatose Dougie state.
You are weak.
100%.
Finally.
Another good audience surrogate moment.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Dougie Jones, Kyle MacLachlan's performance, it's like he has lines of dialogue, but it feels like something right out of a silent movie, like a Harold Lloyd or Buster Keaton or something.
Yeah, back to Eraserhead. It's kind of that stumbling,
he's
bumbling,
kind of that's true. The way he walks around,
Charlie Chaplin kind of thing. Yeah.
When we talked about Eraserhead, I talked about how inexplicably funny it is just seeing him standing in that elevator, waiting for the elevator doors to close, and
that's Dougie, man.
Moments like that in this. Yeah. If I were to, in rewatching it, there's one shot that I think encapsulates the entirety of this show, this season.
Okay. All right, buddy.
Come on, Dougie, move.
Everybody's facing to exit the elevator. Dougie's got his back to the camera. And they're like, Dougie, come on, get the fuck out of the way. And it's like everyone in that